when you get a Stanley Cup ring, and I can probably count on both hands of the amount of times that I've had them out and put them on my finger and actually, acknowledged and reminisced about having those. So, one of the fun parts about having kids is being able to, like, hey, take them, show them, share that with them, and the stories that go along with it.
That is former Winnipeg Jet Andrew Ladd, our special guest here on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. This is the second to last episode before the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm Jamie Thomas. Coming up, your comments on the the Ground Control question of the week, which is, did Connor Hellebuyck solidify his hold in the Vezina Trophy with his performance in Nashville? That and more coming up. Now, of course, we are joined by, as always, oh, wait a second. Look at this.
I'm back.
Another award nominee on the podcast, and it's not me. So obviously, Tyler's been nominated. You've been nominated.
It's good to see that it's not a sore spot.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So we have you here because I was told I had to bring you on the podcast to talk about the Webby nomination that you have received. But seriously, congratulations. Runway has done it again. So please tell us what you've been nominated for.
Well, it's not me personally. But
Sorry, the group.
The group, yes, that puts together Runway. Very excited that Runway has been nominated for a Webby Award, which is the most prestigious of awards for content on the internet. And the episode from Runway that has been nominated is Family, which was the one that focused, if you remember, because I know that you're a big fan of the Runway episodes, that it's the one where Rick Bowness returns after being gone earlier in the season, and when he was home with his wife Judy when she was recovering. So it's one of my favorite episodes. Personally, I think that it really shows how this team is a family. I think it's got a lot of emotion in it as well. And I'm so proud of the group for all of the content that has been produced this year. I think that it's been really great.
It's exciting, right? It's just like all the work that has been put in to be recognized like this is special.
Absolutely. And I think that everyone that works on the Runway series puts in so many hours, and we're constantly trying to elevate what it is that we're doing and trying to give Winnipeg Jets fans that behind the scenes look and really get them that connection going with this team even more so. And so for people to recognize the work that's been done by this great crew is fantastic.
It's the Webby Awards, so it's in the description, the bottom on the YouTube channel.
We're going to save everybody and not do the www.webby awards. Get your pen and paper because it's a long one. But people can vote. So it's up for two. It's up for both. So it's up for sports video, and that's something that's voted on by their judging panel. But then also it's up for basically a fan award as well. So that's where Jets fans can log on. Please do that.
Yeah, I've already done it, so you have to do it too.
I pointed out that JT has multiple email addresses. So I'm hoping that you have registered and that you have voted from all email addresses that you have. But
so if you don't win, it's obviously my fault. So voting is open until Thursday.
It was going
April
to be
18th.
Regardless.
Yeah, Thursday, April 18th is then. So congratulations on that. So in the description, make sure you go to the webpage and vote for this, because we are counting on you to get Sarah and the crew this victory. Moving on. So I mentioned this is the second to last podcast, but we are changing. You are joining me.
Yes.
In this actually we're splitting up a little bit because you'll be traveling. But anyways,
it's best if we're not close to
we
each
can't.
other.
That's enough. So it's going to be Ground Control Live. We'll be doing a pregame show every day, game day, during the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs, and a lot of things to be excited about. We'll be giving out prizes.
Yep.
But the best part of it is the fans will be able to participate in the show with us.
Absolutely. And this is something that we haven't done before that we're really excited about, is being able to do this game show. But we know how much Jets fans love to be involved in the conversation. And so that's something that we're going to try out. So everybody get those fingers ready and get the keyboards out.
Yeah.
And so I think what you and I have discussed is that we'll get everybody set up for the game and all the news that's happening that morning after morning skates, what's been going on in the room, really set the tone for it. And then, as you mentioned, there's also going to be some giveaways as well, which we know everybody's always a fan of.
Everybody loves all the free stuff. Will be given away jerseys, I believe, a couple T-shirts here and there, but other things as the playoffs go along, and for hopefully a long playoff drive. So that'll be on our YouTube channel. Really looking forward to that. So it'll be on game days right after the Jets morning skate. Now, you'll be traveling, so that's going to be the best part. So you'll be joining us from a various location.
You won't be here, Sarah, so that's the best part.
Yes, so much further away in another place. So that part, looking forward to doing that. That'll start game one, obviously, and looking forward to that, as I mentioned. Yeah. So Connor Hellebuyck, we were doing a test run of Ground Control Live yesterday, and we were kind of talking about the stories leading into the series that haven't started yet. Yeah. We're just kind of messing around a little bit, but we did talk about Connor Hellebuyck and the fact that he hadn't had to steal a game for the Jets really this year. That happened Tuesday night in Nashville. It's kind of ironic that popped up.
Well, when you and I were going through kind of the mock run through, that one of the storylines that we had said was going to be prevalent for the Jets going into that first round series, whomever it's against, it is Hellebuyck. And, you're going to need your goaltender to be the best goaltender in that series in order for the Jets to be able to come out on top. And then, they go into Nashville, and sure enough, Connor's getting that game right where you want it to be heading into the postseason with those 45 saves. And everybody from Rick Bowness to any of the players that were asked about it post-game spoke about how outstanding he was. And the only reason that team got their 2 points last night was because of the job that Connor Hellebuyck did. So just another reason for him to get the nod for the Vezina this year.
May I just give it to him now? And that was the question of the week. I just asked if he had solidified his hold of the Vezina Trophy. We don't actually know if he had a hold on it, but from our perspective, he has it. So I asked Jets fans, and they said there was absolutely from Tracy. There was Bells saying absolutely, saved 45 of 48 shots in a game where Winnipeg was heavily outshot. Barrett said, I think he had it solidified, but his win tonight just confirmed it. And then last but not least, Glenn says absolutely. So it's just clearly it is a Jets favored question, but the performance he's had this year, and even though he hasn't been as busy as he'd been in years past, I think there's no question he's the Vezina Trophy winner.
Well, and I think that, again, when you look ahead to the playoffs, that you need him to be. You need your, inevitably at some point, your goaltender to steal you a game. And so for him to be rounding back into that A+ form is exactly what you want to see at this time, because a lot of attention is going to be paid to Connor Hellebuyck, deservedly so, to see how it is that he does. But there's no better penalty killer than your goaltender. Yeah,
Jets perfect 4-for-4 in Nashville as they continue the road trip in Dallas by the time you listen to this podcast. So let's move on to the play of the week. And, Gabriel Vilardi, it's been fantastic to see him when he's in the lineup, and you understand why the Jets are so excited. And then you see the power play goal that he scored last night in Nashville. If you don't believe me, let's just see it again.
Shoveled it off the stick. Jets win the race to the loose puck. Over for Shankly it comes. Here's Vilardi. Oh, what a goal! Gabe Vilardi back between his feet. He roofs it, and we're tied at 1.
And what a goal! Vilardi went through the legs and upstairs. How do you stop that? Power play goal for the Jets ties it up.
Hi, I'm Cole Perfetti.
He shoots and scores!
And this is the Ground Control Podcast.
Rick Bowness kind of undersold after the game about what Gabe Vilardi's, what he's meant to the power play. But the power play has suddenly looked dangerous, which is has been the whole concern leading up to the playoffs, is if the power play is going to get on track. So that goal is tremendous. So speaking of the playoffs, Sarah, you've been here since the start of the return of the Winnipeg Jets. 2015, they finally get into the playoffs. They arrive in 2011-12. They get in 14-15. Can you kind of take us through quickly just how because we got to get to Andrew Ladd. Not that you're not important, but just how the excitement in the city, because I've been here for a few of these now. It seems like every year when they get into the postseason, it gets very exciting around here. But for them to get back after 96 for the first time, how special was that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's continued to grow every time that they've gotten into the postseason, obviously, because 2015 it ended up in the sweep. Losing 4 straight to the Ducks, although they were in it. You look at the third periods, the time, but I think that this organization learned a lot about what it was going to take to have success in the postseason. But anytime you have that opportunity to be a part of a whiteout. I don't know if you can see. I've got my new Winnipeg Whiteout t-shirt for 2024 that I'm sporting right now. But anytime you can be a part of something like that, the energy in this city is unlike anything else that I have experienced when it comes to NHL markets. And there was so much anticipation for it because a generation had never had the opportunity to be a part of a whiteout. Everyone had heard about it, but you'd see the old images of it, but not having had the opportunity to experience it themselves. And there's such excitement just for it to be back and for postseason hockey to be back. And as I mentioned, it's something that I think in many ways has just continued to grow. Or now, with, when the street parties started and everything that's continued to go on. But you talk to players from that team that played for that first time, and I think many had never experienced anything like that, especially ones that had had the opportunity. There were a number that were playing in their first playoff series. And you think about the Brian Littles, or you think about the Chris Thorburns and various players that we had only played for this one organization that had never had the opportunity to be in it before. So you add the excitement of that, you add the energy that was around the city, in the building, everybody dressed in white tuxes, which is what Jamie has promised to wear for the first home game.
Oh,
it's going to be so beautiful.
When I'm doing streeters.
Oh, white satin suit. That's so nice of you to do that. It's so nice of you to do that. I know everyone's looking forward to it, and that'll be a full feature, I'm sure, on the on one of our more.
You're welcome. You're so special.
Anyways, it was great. Even more excited for it this year, and especially because of the opportunities that this Jets team has.
Andrew Ladd was the captain of that team. What type of, he had already won a Stanley Cup, so he had been through, so he knew everything about that and what it took to go in it, but it must have been special for him to be the captain of the first Jets team to get in.
I think that, and having spoken with Andrew a variety of times since he was traded away, but then also really since he is focused on kind of post-playing days, that as he's gotten older, I think that the appreciation level has continued to grow for what it was that he experienced here in Winnipeg. Whether that be from the very first game, being the first captain, the first opportunity to experience the whiteout thing, that as anything, and you and I have discussed this about a variety of different topics, just that your perspective changes as you get older with it, and when you're not right in the moment of it, and you're able to have a little bit of distance. And I think that he'll tell you just how special it was to have been a part of so many firsts for the Winnipeg Jets.
Make sure to go to the description on our YouTube page, vote on the Webby for Runway. Family is the episode. Get it done. We need the victory. So here's Andrew Ladd on Ground Control. Pleased to welcome to the podcast two-time Stanley Cup champion and former Winnipeg Jet captain Andrew Ladd. What is keeping you busy since you hung up your skates? And I know one of them is the Ladd Foundation.
Yeah, that's been a big part of what's kept me busy is our program 1616. We've developed a proactive approach to affecting the social, emotional, and mental well-being of young hockey players across North America. So really just setting them up to have the skills in that space so that when life's challenges they inevitably hit, they're more prepared to know how to deal with those issues, and then obviously know who's around them to support them in those causes. So it's been fun to build that. We were up to, I think we had 213 teams across North America last year. So growing quickly, and it's been a lot of fun. And then on top of that, I'm doing actually some performance coaching in the sports space. So I work with a group of coaches that work with anywhere from C-suite executives to Fortune 500 companies to some of the top athletes in the world, and then some of the top organizations in the world of sport as well. So that's on the other side of that, but it kind of aligned with what we're trying to teach kids at a young age as well.
At what point in your National Hockey League career did you think you were going to be doing anything like this at the end of it?
None really. I mean, it really happened at the end. I think going through the process of struggling and then having to go find a coach and learn a lot of the skills that I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years really highlighted a need not only at the youth level, but the pro level too. I think sports can be a lonely place when you're trying to handle and solve all those issues by yourself. So it's been fun to be a part of helping athletes unlock their own potential and figure out what's getting in their own way between their ears, and a lot of that internal conversation that we tend to deal with all on our own. So yeah, I think it's an impactful space that I've found purpose in.
At what point in your career were you the loneliest?
Oh, I think it just depends on, there's probably a bunch of different times. At the end of my career, I think I got to a point where I wasn't having the success that I wanted to have, and I was really relating to my on ice struggles and internalizing a lot of that and trying to handle that all by myself. So with that, I think I just became hyper focused on how to handle that and neglected a lot of the other areas in my life that I didn't want to. So when I say lonely, I think it was my unwillingness to invite others into that conversation with me.
Right. Yeah.
And try to solve that by myself. So, and I look back now and I see like, hey, there's parts during my career where maybe I didn't notice that was happening as well. So,
because you're so busy, right? And you're so locked into everything. Would
yeah,
that be the case?
Yeah, I think like as athletes, if things are going well, as a hockey player, things are going well on the ice, then hey, life's good, right? Because we're so hyper focused on that. And then as you get older, you there's more that goes into it. You're adding family and kids and a different dynamic. Your career's coming to a close, and what does that mean? And there's a lot of unknown in the future. So all of those different things invite different dynamics into your life that show up maybe or highlight it a little more. So yeah, I think it's just one thing I know is like you don't know your blind spots. That's why they call them blind spots. So
Yeah.
having someone be able to ride shotgun with you and poke and prod a little bit and ask you like, hey, if you're committed to being this person or achieving this, is this the most resourceful way to go about it? Has been, it's been an eye-opening experience for me, and I know a lot of other guys too.
How therapeutic has it been for you to be able to offer people help in this department?
I think it's again that purpose, right? And you get to the stage where I'm at, and I don't need the money, so income isn't a driver for me from that standpoint. It becomes like, hey, more relationships and impact. That's important to me right now. So I think this allows me to do both of those things. And like I said, I saw, I felt that hole myself when at the end of my career, and I've seen it firsthand now, even working with other athletes. So to be a part of changing that and supporting that group is meaningful for me.
Something you appreciate about your career since you've retired is what?
I think the whole experience is unique. I think the ability to play a sport for a living and step out on the ice in front of 18 to 20,000 people and do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but you start to like take for granted that that's just the way life is. So I think the energy, the focus around doing that is something that I miss. So yeah, I think when you step away from it, you really realize how special that opportunity was. And I think when you're in that moment, you kind of you feel like it's going to last. It's going to you're just going to have this feeling forever, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And that's okay. And then it's just like, okay, you need to find something else that gives you that same purpose or same feeling. And that was kind of the journey that I went through.
Well, kids certainly give you purpose. You have kids. Do you did the kids ever get their hands on your Stanley Cup rings ever?
They have. We've moved a few times, so I think just like in terms of boxing up, and they've come out a couple times. So yeah, I think it's funny because when you have, when you get a Stanley Cup ring, and I can probably count on the both hands of the amount of times that I've had them out and put them on my finger and actually acknowledged and reminisced about having those. So one of the fun parts about having kids is being able to like, hey, take them, show them, share that with them, and the stories that go along with it.
Listen, you played in some really unique hockey markets. You win a Stanley Cup in 2006 with the Carolina Hurricanes. How unique of a place was that to play in and then win a Stanley Cup with?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, it's just a non-traditional hockey market. So
Mm-hmm.
there's when you're walking down the street, I would explain it as like if they were a hockey fan and they went to Carolina Hurricanes games, they were rabid hockey fans. And then there was, people that had absolutely no clue what hockey was, how to follow the game, anything about it. So, one thing it's fun about sports is like when you have a winning team that it's able to rally a community and bring people along that maybe normally wouldn't pay attention to it. So I think we saw a lot of that in Carolina, and the uniqueness that they brought to that with, they tailgated before games. So like we'd show up, 2.5 hours, 3 hours before the game, and there was, parking lot loaded of people tailgating and cooking barbecue. And that experience to like, hey, they stood for the whole game 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's,
Yeah.
you're in Winnipeg, people aren't doing those things. So I think it adds another dimension to like the sport, and bringing a little bit of what they do with college football and college basketball, and then bringing it over to hockey, which was a lot of fun.
How many times did you partake in barbecue before a game during your time there?
Not many while I was there. Had I not been, I'd probably be a few more now, but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but it was fun, right? It was just certain energy around like, hey, pulling up for a game and having,
Oh, it must have been
5,000
crazy.
people in the parking lot. Yeah.
How good was that Blackhawk team that won the Cup in 2010? Because I talked to Dustin Byfuglien in Chicago, ironically, when he was still playing. And he said you guys rarely practiced that year.
Yeah, I think there was some unique aspects to that team. I think they're definitely the on ice talent, the age of that group,
Mm-hmm.
and the drive. I think you look back now that I'm in the space that I'm in, is like people relate to maybe when they had success is like, hey, like we felt like brothers. And
For sure.
I think the unique thing about that team was, and I have 2 brothers of my own, and I know we used to fight like cats and dogs and like beat the living crap out of each other. But 5 minutes later we were good, right? It's like we got that raw
Yeah.
emotion out, and it was like, no, like we still love each other. We're still here for each other no matter what. And I look back at that team, and it was a lot of that, right? Like we would have those fights. We would be pissed off at each other. We would fight, and then 5 minutes later, it was like, hey, we knew we loved each other, and then we knew what we were focused on. So from that standpoint, I think it was a special group. And then just that competition and drive filtered over into practice, filtered over into games. We had a lot of guys who wanted to be the top scorers. They wanted to be the guy to score those big goals. And sometimes that was Patrick Kane. Sometimes that was Jonathan Toews. Sometimes that was Patrick Sharp. Sometimes that was Buff. Sometimes it was Marian Hossa. So like the list goes on and on. And so I think along with the talent came a drive to make each other better, which is what made that group special, and is something that I look back on now with a little more insight on maybe what made that tick.
Dustin Byfuglien, speaking of unique, just a unique person, unique player. What did you like him or appreciate him more as a forward or as a defenseman?
Oh, I think it's hard to not appreciate absolutely everything that Buff did on the ice.
Yeah.
I think it's the whole ability to have the impact he had on, take our run in Chicago, like how dominant he was in the Vancouver series and in the finals, and some big hits with Chris Pronger, who's a Hall of Fame defenseman that he tossed around like a ragdoll, and just he showed up in those big moments. And then I have people in Winnipeg are familiar with what he can do on the back end, and
For sure.
1 minute he's defending and laying guys out in his own end, and the next minute he's got a breakaway when we're down 5-on-3, and you're so he was a unique such a unique athlete in general. But I think he was so maybe underestimated in terms of his hockey sense and his smarts on the ice. I think everybody saw like the big brawn and strength that he played with, and big shot, but underestimated really how he thought the game. He was extremely smart with how he played all over the ice, and that's obvious with the ability to even just play forward or defense.
You helped this team in 2015 get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Winnipeg hadn't had the Stanley Cup playoffs since 1996. How special of a feeling and emotion was that the night you guys clinched? And I want you to take me through that night, because I know there's a lot of moving parts. How special and unique was that night when you guys clinched to get to the 2015 Stanley Cup playoffs as the Jets?
Yeah, it was. It's a big moment. Obviously, we hadn't made the playoffs since we came back. Everyone, I think, when everybody looks at Winnipeg, they think whiteout, they think playoffs, they think that atmosphere. So I think the first thought was like, hey, we like just the ability to experience that as a group was something that we just were so excited. Not only us, but the world got to see that at that moment too, and see what Winnipeg was all about in the playoffs. So I remember just being excited about that, and looking back now, I'm like, oh, like we didn't have a super talented team, and no one really had us even getting to the playoffs. So the ability to get there, and I think we had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and we were steadfast in how we needed to play to get in. We were pretty excited to do that.
How you'd won a couple of Stanley Cups, Dustin Byfuglien, and had won a Stanley Cup as well. You guys had that playoff experience in that moment, but how happy were you for guys like Chris Thorburn and Brian Little, who had never experienced that before?
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, I think everybody, and I think no matter whether you have the playoff experience or not, it's when you go over the course of the stretch that we had there leading up to that, like it feels like you haven't been there for a long time. So I think even for me, who'd won 2 Stanley Cups up until that point, you realize how hard it is not only win Stanley Cup, but just even get in the playoffs. But yeah, it was super happy for them to have the opportunity to like just experience like the elevated energy and atmosphere and emotion that goes into playing playoff hockey.
It's fun asking players that come here now about what they felt like when they saw the whiteout, when they came out the first time. And I know for you guys in 2015, that the people in the building when you guys came on the ice for warm up, take us through what that was like for you.
Oh yeah, I think again, it's just like the energy and emotion that comes along with playing in that building. It's not it's not a big building to begin with, so I think everybody was already aware of like the energy and passion that those fans brought, and they feel like they're right on top of you. And you add the element that, hey, when you walk out for a warm up, that building's packed and everybody's wearing white. And I think it just elevated the experience even more. So I think it was, as a player, you're trying to tap into that energy that's in that building. And when you talk about, hey, the effect that fans can have on a group, and their team, like to me, that's the ultimate thing, is like, hey, like we get to tap into their energy that they're bringing into the building, and their raw emotion to try to help us win a game.
What stands out, like as being a Jet? You were the first captain. There's got to be so many things, but what stands out being in Winnipeg and being a Jet, Andrew?
Yeah, I think like when you're a part of that community, there's a genuine care for each other. I think that's actually what sticks out the most for me, having left.
Yeah.
And I think it felt that as a captain, being a part of that community, and as a leader in that community, there's a great responsibility in that. So for me, that was the best part about being in Winnipeg, was that sense of community and how everyone takes care of themselves. And I think my family felt that. We had 2 kids that were born there.
Yeah.
And there's an immense pride in being a part of that. And then, you can go to the hockey aspect and their knowledge of the game, and how, how much that team means to that community. But I think it starts with just their care for each other, really.
Well, I appreciate your time. Congrats on a great NHL career, of course, and everything that's going forward is going for you right now. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.